forgotten, a present joy be given, a future grace be promised, a glorious crown in heaven. And that is what this dying criminal discovered, the freeness of the grace, the mercy of God. It also, of course, shows to us that Christian conversion can be instantaneous. There are those who, in becoming Christians, spend a long time seeking and searching for the truth. There are some who go through a prolonged agony, a prolonged experience of conviction of sin. A man like John Bunyan, who for many, many months was in agony, convicted of sin before he came to faith in Jesus. But we must be clear that it is not necessarily like that. That there are others who come to faith in a moment. Lydia at Philippi, she heard the message of the gospel and God opened her heart. She received that day the things that she heard from Paul. And this criminal, his heart was changed even on the cross. And in that brief period, he became a Christian. And we must insist upon this, the immediacy of the gospel, that the vilest offender who truly believes that moment from Jesus, pardon receives. It must be so, because there is nothing for the sinner to contribute, only to fall at the feet of Jesus and to receive grace and mercy and pardon. Well, in conclusion, what do we see in these passages? We see, first of all, the Lord of glory submitting to death. It is a terrible death. His soul shrinks from it, but for the sake of his people, Jesus is led away to be crucified. To the women, he is an object of pity, but that pity is misguided. To the rulers, to the soldiers, to one of the criminals, he is an object of derision and scorn. But to some, there is granted a different understanding. Probably to Simon of Cyrene, as he bears the cross and all that he witnesses that day, probably he is to be numbered among those converted that day. Maybe the centurion, we'll see that, God willing, next week. And certainly this criminal. He sees what others do not see. He sees beyond the appearance. He does not see in Jesus a condemned criminal. He sees in Jesus the crucified Lord of glory, the King. And he resigns himself into the hands of Jesus. And he is eternally saved. God grant that if there be anyone here and you are not a Christian, God grant that your eyes may be opened to Jesus, the Son of God, and that you may be able to resign yourself wholly into his care and to receive today the mercy which is found with him alone. May God speak to us through his word.